What is mindfulness? How are defined mindfulness interventions?
Okay. So mindfulness actually is a concept from the Buddhist traditions and is a central element in meditation practice. Mindfulness is defined as a state of awareness where people focus their attention on the present moment, so what they're experiencing right now, right here, and they do so with a non-judgmental or non-evaluative attitude.
Okay. Do you think that in general public and work and organizational psychologists has a clear idea about what is the content, meaning and application of mindfulness in work organizations?
So mindfulness has been getting popular, and you read a lot about mindfulness in the general media. So also I think work and organizational psychologists, practitioners and researchers are becoming more aware of it. But of course sometimes people only have a vague idea of what it really means. So but I think awareness is growing and building up, and more people know exactly what mindfulness means and how mindfulness interventions look like.
Okay. And the applications in mindfulness in the workplace, what are, in your opinion, the more relevant components and dimensions and some of the key aspects of strategies to develop mindfulness applications in the workplace?
Mm-hmm. So there are mindfulness-based training programs, and they actually have been developed in the clinical in clinical psychology, in the clinical area. And people have been doing research on that since 20 years, and they have done a wonderful job, and they have accumulated a lot of research evidence. And that is very helpful for us because now we can build on that research and we can apply this to the work context. So actually the interventions people are using in the workplace are modeled after the clinical interventions, and one of the most famous interventions is a mindfulness-based stress reduction program from John Kabat-Zinn. That is a very extensive program, so it's very intensive. It has been developed for people who are suffering from stress and stress-related psychological health problems. It is an 8-week program. It involves weekly group sessions. It involves practice of 45 minutes every day. And it also involves a silent retreat. And of course, if we wanted to offer this to people working in organizations, it would be maybe a bit too intensive and people would not tend to attend. So in the workplace, we have started developing, or people have started developing, more low-dose interventions, which are a bit less extensive, and people have been thinking about how you can, instead of having group sessions with a trainer, how you can do this based on online trainings or video-based. There are even mindfulness apps people can use. So I think the origin of the program is the mindfulness-based stress reduction program, and then people have adapted this to the work context.
Okay, in your keynote address, you focus mainly in interventions addressed to face or cope with stress and recovery from work. What are the main advantages or the main benefits that the interventions based in mindfulness could have for these kind of topics or work-related problems?
Mm-hmm. So in research, we are accumulating evidence that actually shows that people who are more mindful, maybe on a natural level, usually experience less stress and also less stress-related problems like emotional exhaustion, which is a very important component of burnout. And we have also seen in research that people who follow such a mindfulness-based intervention, the real intensive one and also more low-dose interventions, that also they show improved levels of well-being in terms of being less emotionally exhausted, being better able to switch off after work. That's a very important component of recovery, so that people need to be able to switch off when work is actually over. They experience better sleep quality. And there's other research showing that people have a better work-life balance because, for example, when they're at home, they don't think about work and all the work stresses, but they can actually focus on their family and maybe enjoy time with their kids or family.
In your keynote address, you mentioned that there are some individual differences about mindfulness and you suggest that some group of people could benefit more than others from mindfulness-based intervention. What about this?
That's a very important question, and we still need to learn a bit more about that. But it is likely that there are a group of people who benefit more from an intervention than others. One component could be openness to something like that, openness to mindfulness and to do mindfulness meditation. And another idea is that that is an idea coming from clinical psychology, which has shown that people who are more in need, so for people with higher stress levels, people who feel more exhausted, people who have particular difficulties switching off after work and sleeping well, that these people have more to gain from an intervention. So these people typically show higher increases due to a mindfulness training. But this is what we know from the clinical area. In the work context, we still have to investigate this a bit more.
So, what do you think about the main challenges in the field of research, and what could be some future directions related with mindfulness in the workplace? How could advance in this area of practice and theory?
Yeah. I think there is a lot to advance. It's still a very young area of research. In the context of work, we have only been studying mindfulness for the last roughly 6 years. So there still is a lot we need to learn. Overall, there are more studies on mindfulness and well-being. We still don't know so much about the implications for performance. Does it benefit performance? Under which conditions does it benefit performance? So there is a large area where we need to learn more. And then we need to learn more about, for example, the mechanisms. Why does mindfulness help people to switch off after work? Or why does mindfulness help people regulate their emotions in an adaptive way? So there's a lot of work that we can still do. And the challenges are, of course, convincing people to participate in a mindfulness intervention, convincing individuals, convincing organizations, but also, of course, convincing them that they're actually doing the exercises at home, because mindfulness is about practice. It's not enough to just read a book about it or go to a workshop and then you go home. It's actually about doing the mindfulness practices and really trying to follow them. And these are the challenges. How do we recruit enough participants for our research? How can we convince organizations to participate in that? And how can we convince the individuals to actually practice it?
Well, in our workplace intervention, we have always two sides of the coin, the individuals and the organization. It's clear that the individuals could benefit very much from mindfulness-based interventions. Consequently, organizations could benefit from having more healthy and committed people. Do you think that organizations are sensitive or to this kind of interventions, or how we can to stimulate that organizations could be involved in this kind of interventions?
Well, I think there is increasing awareness, and more organizations are aware of it, of the benefits, and want to offer mindfulness-based trainings to their employees. One of the first organizations doing so was Google with a program called Search Inside Yourself, but other organizations as well, like Intel, SAP, General Mills. And I think the more organizations are doing that, the more others will also hop on the on the idea and then also implement mindfulness interventions. So I think it also depends on the culture of an organization, whether they are open for something like that. I think there are also differences between countries. I've heard that some organizations in some countries are more open-minded than in other countries where they still think that's an esoteric thing. Why should we implement that? But another point which is really important to me is that for organizations, if they're serious about it, it's not enough to just offer a training. I think they should really consider also how they have to design work that it actually allows people to be mindful. So not only offering an intervention and keeping job characteristics and some job demands at a high level, high time pressure, that's not the idea of it. But they should also try to create work circumstances that allow people to do their work mindfully.
You can give some general recommendations for people interested to apply mindfulness-based interventions. What is the way to start, or what are the mechanisms to be trained as a mindfulness trainer?
Mm-hmm. So individuals who are interested in this concept and who want to try out some of the mindfulness interventions, there are very good books written also from experts, but written for everybody. They usually include exercises. They usually include a little CD with some audio files which guide you through a mindfulness meditation exercise. So that would be a starting point just to see whether this is something for you. And if somebody really likes it, then I would probably recommend following. There are many mindfulness centers around, and many trainers offer programs. So if somebody really wants to delve into it, I would probably recommend following such a mindfulness course. But there are also, for example, very good apps. If you want to have it more low dose and you want to try it out for yourself, you could also download such an app and try out some of the meditation exercises.
I understand that two main mechanisms of mindfulness-based interventions could be related with emotional regulation by one side and focusing attention in the other side. Maybe there are other components, but this was the most relevant or outstanding in your keynote address. Regarding one of them is emotional regulation. Some topics or some concerns in organizational life are more prone. But what about focusing attention? I think that mindfulness programs could be applied for a wider range of situations in work environment, like conflicting groups or development goals or career development or so on. Maybe it's an initial era of mindfulness application, but could be in the future we can extend interventions to other areas of organizational development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. Mindfulness is a very broad thing. It can be applied to all kinds of life situations. So it can you can apply it to situations in your personal life. So it definitely has implications for interpersonal relationships. It also has implications for leadership situations, because somebody, and there's also research on that, people or leaders who are more mindful are better able to listen, to really focus, pay attention to the person they are talking to, rather than talking to somebody but thinking about something else. So it can be applied to a wide range of things, because stress appraisal, coping, emotion regulation is involved in all kinds of areas at work.
Okay, thank you very much for this general overview about mindfulness in the workplace, for your recommendations, and we will be following you in the future lines of research and future outstanding publications.
Okay, thank you very much.